A collision between a cargo ship and a chemical tanker has triggered a major rescue operation and fears of an environmental disaster. So this is happening in the North Sea, off England's northeast coast. The city of Hull is the largest nearby population centre. U.S. shipping firm Crowley says that its tanker is spilling jet fuel and all its crew have abandoned ship after multiple explosions. Initial reports suggest more than 30 people have been brought to shore. Well, Stavros Karam-peridis is the head of the Maritime Transport Research Group at the University of Plymouth. You're joining us from Plymouth. Stavros, thank you for being with us. There's a lot we don't know at this point because this happened a short while ago. As an expert in this field, what are the first questions you ask when you see something like this?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, Cheryl. And the first question I would like to ask when you have something like that is if everybody's safe. I think number one priority at the moment, because as you rightly said, the accident happened less than 5 hours ago, is for the authorities to reach to the scene, evaluate the circumstances, and make sure that everybody's safe. And I think that's what we've seen so far. We've seen an amazing response from the UK authorities. It was very prompt and very professional.
The reporting that we're getting so far does not say that there are any fatalities or any people lost at sea or missing. We're still waiting, that the reporting could change in the coming hours. But so far, it's not on our radar. What other questions would you ask, especially as we know that there are chemicals, it seems, now spilling into the sea? Anytime that happens, of course, there's major concerns about environmental issues.
Yes, that's the logical next step when we make sure that everybody who was on scene, they're safe, to make sure that we're not having any damage to the environment. And as you rightly said, we're still getting information from the scene. Is a developing story. We still haven't really got all the information of what is going on. But my gut feeling says that the authorities now, the next step they're doing is they're taking flood defenses over there so they can mitigate or stop if we have any leakage of the overall fuel to the environment. Good and bad news is that we see some fire, so that means that some of the fuel that goes out is being burned, and that's why I'm saying that hopefully the authorities are at the moment trying to mitigate the overall situation. That's why we have a lot of tests during in the ports around the UK, and I'm quite sure that all that kind of exercise has been dealt with the most professional standards.
So the Crowley shipping firm says that its tanker is spilling jet fuel into the water. What's the best case scenario and worst case scenario when something like this happens?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So, worst case scenario is that we're going to have all the fuel getting outside from the tanker. The best case scenario is that because tanker is not only in one piece, we have segments. So the best case scenario is that we are going to have only one segment. We're going to have the leakage of the fuel, the segment that was impacted from the collision, and hopefully that will be maintained and stopped there. So. In theory, the best case scenario would be we're going to have a very small leak of oil to the environment, and soon the authorities will be able to stop the overall leakage there.
Okay, that's the best case scenario. I have to ask you what the worst case scenario is.
Worst case scenario is that we don't, is the overall fire or, whatever, the leak continues, and we have a leak of the overall oil to the environment. I'm not an environmental expert, but again, as I said, the worst case scenario, I'm sure that the authorities have worked on that, and they can put the dams around the area of the disaster and contaminate everything there. Then they can bring some special vessels that can do all the washing. They can suck all the oil from the sea, and they can make sure that the accident will have the minimum environmental impact to the area.
All right, Stavros Karam-peridis, head of the Maritime Transport Research Group at the University of Plymouth. Thank you very much. We'll continue, of course, watching this very closely and bring our viewers any details on rescue operations and operations to contain the leak as and when we get them.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.